and he is a senior medical oncologist from HOC Vedant team, Ahmedabad, and he will be speaking on various therapeutic options beyond first line immunotherapy in metastatic non-small cell lung cancer. Over to Abhishek.
Good evening, everyone. My slides are visible?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much, Rahul, and of course to everyone who has joined us today. So many lectures about immunotherapy in the past 2 years due to COVID. I thought let us read something new. I'll just share you what I was this, and I'll say this lecture is not sponsored. So this is the article. This was a very interesting article which I read, and I thought I should we should read about it, and we should know what are the options beyond first line. So we have started using immunotherapy in quite a few patients, let's say few patients, not quite a few. And what you do after a patient has failed an immunotherapy or a chemoimmunotherapy in the first line. Yeah, so it doesn't move. Okay, so this, I think the entire lecture, we summarize this. It's very easy. We all know how to treat our patients. Adeno-CA, squamous, non-squamous, mutation positive, no mutation positive, PD-L1 high, PD-L1 low. This slide summarizes the entire treatment as of today for NSCLC. And obviously it shows, if I have to summarize, it is immuno with chemo or immuno. Of course, your targeted mutations will have those drugs. So what do you do after somebody has progressed on immunotherapy? You have used your checkpoint inhibitors with or without chemo. So progression could be two, as would have been on a chemotherapy or maybe a gefitinib or a crizotinib. You have an oligoprogression or you have a systemic progression. So we all know this term oligoprogression is limited number of metastatic sites in a well-controlled disease. And there is generally a lot of debate about what is a well-controlled disease, but we tend to agree that it is basically about 3 to 5 lesions confined to 1 to 3 organs. This is what the general consensus is amongst the faculty. Obviously, people might disagree, but what do you do? What the literature suggests, this article very nicely quoted the last 10-year literature. The rate of oligoprogression in immunotherapy treated patients was about 10 to 20% compared to about 15 to 45% with TKIs. And most common sites were obviously the same as would have been in any lung cancer: brain, lung, lymph node, liver. What do you do? So what was found is in immunotherapy treated patients, RT was the most promising local treatment for an oligoprogressive disease. Why? Because we all know that RT enhances tumor antigen presentation. So it has its good effects also on enhancing the effects of immunotherapy. We all know that giving RT from the PACIFIC trial, basic funda of PACIFIC trial was RT increases the antigen expression and hence helps durvalumab to act. So based on that principle, it has been realized that probably the local form of treatment more than surgery, RT would have been a better option for oligoprogressive disease on immunotherapy. Obviously, there would have been circumstances where surgery can also be used. What are the data? Obviously, there is a lot of data there, not very clear cut, but I have picked up a few of them. So this was the one of the larger prospective studies of 100 patients progressing on pembrolizumab. 18% of the patients were treated beyond progression, and among them 13 had oligoprogression, and they were treated with RT. What they showed is the combination of pembro beyond progression. Obviously, we know this. Beyond RT, beyond progression, pembro was continued and RT was added to the oligoprogressive site, and the patients had a very high post-progression survival. So your local RT, so the list of data is huge. You can go through the entire list. I have just picked up one trial, and if you have to summarize on the right hand side, if you see patients were given RT for their oligoprogression and the immunotherapy was continued, and the median PFS or the time to progression beyond the oligoprogression was good enough. So convincingly RT scores better, and we have other trials which are ongoing. Again, the list is huge. I won't go through it, which will ultimately give us the guidelines. So these are the trials I showed you are phase 1, 2 trials. Some of them are phase 3, but there is very few number of patients, limited data. Obviously, the data will be generated in amongst these new trials. But RT seems to be the modality of choice for oligoprogression beyond on immunotherapy patients. What about systemic progression? So what they have done is they defined systemic progression into 3 different parts. So one, somebody is on immunotherapy or immunochemotherapy, your systemic progression is early, intermediate, and late. Your early systemic progression is characterized by a lack of response to immunotherapy, and the disease has progressed within 3 months of treatment initiation. So basically did not respond. Intermediate is somebody who disease defined as disease progression occurring between 3 months to 2 years. So he had responded but then failed. And late systemic progression is, I think Dr. Basade and Rahul also alluded to some of the data of Keynote 024. People were re-challenged after 2 years and they did respond. So these were the late progressive disease. So somebody is defined as progression occurring after at least 2 years of ICI or immuno checkpoint inhibitor treatment. What are the mechanism of resistance? There's a concept of primary resistance and acquired resistance. You can obviously make out primary resistance is a scenario where the patient did not respond to the immunotherapy strategy. The mechanisms of the lack of response seem to be there is an immune resistance or a defect in the antigen presentation. So the patient did not respond to your immunotherapy. And acquired resistance is in a scenario where patient initially responded but then relapsed. And there could be various mechanisms why that happened. So there is a mechanism called priming defective mechanism, which leads to your primary immune resistance or your early progression. Then there is an adaptive immune resistance mechanism, which leads to your late progression. These are ways where how resistance happens on immunotherapy. There is a decreased production and expression of tumor antigens, epigenetic modifications, a lot of genetic mutations happening. Alteration is the PDG amplicon. So I won't go through the detail, but this PDG amplicon chromosome 9 is what codes PDL1 and 2. There is alteration in the tumor microenvironment. So there are n number of mechanisms why resistance happens. What do you do? We'll cut the chase short. So this is what do you do? What are the strategies for early systemic progression? So there could be strategies. There are 3 basic strategies. One is what you can use immunotherapy. How do you use it? There are strategies beyond immunotherapy, and then there are novel operators which have been tried in clinical trials. So what about immunotherapy? So somebody who has early progress has a primary resistance to immunotherapy. So probably he cannot be put on the same immunotherapy drug or continued or changed to a next generation or to a competitive immunotherapy drug. What you need to do is put him on a second generation immunotherapy drugs. Obviously, these are all in trials beyond our possession, maybe available in US. So this is one of these are. I have taken a couple of them. This is an IL-2 agonist or NKTR 214. What is it? It is an IL-2 antagonist targeting CD122. What it does is, if you I've just highlighted it, increases the activation of PDL1 expression in these immune cells. And there have been several studies which are currently ongoing and have demonstrated that it does help beyond early progression in immunotherapy. This is another one, which is an ICOS receptor agonist. If you go through the pathology, which I have not included here, it's what is ICOS? This is nothing but a CD278. It's an inducible T cell co-stimulator, highly expressed on CD or your T cells, which we are trying to stimulate against the tumor microenvironment. And it's considered to be one of the most promising second generation immunotherapeutic drugs. Probably there are a number of them which are in clinical trials, and you could use this. There are ongoing trials which are testing it in patients beyond immunotherapy progressions in combination of immunotherapy progression, like anti-ICOS with an atezolizumab. What about the other drugs? So this is the interesting one, which I thought we could use in our clinical setting very easily. Maybe data, no data. Anti-angiogenic agents. So tyrosine kinase inhibitors are known to mediate immunosuppressive mechanisms in the tumor microenvironment, and their activation is a potential resistance mechanism to immunotherapy. So while their inhibition induces an increase in the anti-tumor response. So this is the basic concept where on basis of which we are using your immunotherapy with TKIs in RCC and a number of other clinical settings. So we have approvals in RCC, we have approvals in HCC, we have approvals in endometrium. You use an immunotherapy with a TKI like lenvatinib or cabozantinib, and this is an opportunity of using an anti-angiogenic agent with an immunotherapy, continuing the immunotherapy and using an anti-angiogenic agent, either anti-angiogenic agent alone or with chemotherapy in somebody who has early progressed. So amongst that, we all know lenvatinib is quite popular, has been approved in a couple of indications with immuno, although it has been approved in first line setting. So the concept is that if you have not used it, you might add it or you might use it beyond immunotherapy. So lenvatinib, we know it has its immune modulating effects on the tumor microenvironment. And what it does is causes activation of cytotoxic T cells. And it has been shown to be an effective partner to this PD-PDL1 combination in different tumor settings. And we know that. And there is a randomized phase 3 trial which is already assessing its role together with lenvatinib in patients who have progressed beyond pembro. And what is the second one? This is another TKI, citratinib, again a multi-kinase inhibitor. The phase 3 trial is ongoing and it is being combined with nivolumab versus your traditional chemotherapy in somebody who has already progressed. The early data shows that about 21 of the 25 patients, or 84% of the patients, experienced tumor reductions, and 7 of them had partial response. So if you could say a significant response rate in somebody who has early progressed on immunotherapy. Cabozantinib, obviously, it's what I sometimes feel is the mother of all drugs. You could use it everywhere and anywhere. So cabozantinib again promotes your immune permissive tumor microenvironment through inhibition of immune suppressive cells and tumor vascular, and it has been shown to overcome immunotherapy resistance by causing resensitization to the checkpoint inhibitors. And cabozantinib has been used with a number of immunotherapeutic agents as well as chemotherapeutic agents in second line beyond chemotherapy, beyond immunotherapy. What about combination? Rahul was initially talking about combination of immunotherapy agents, and a word on it. I think combination has been effectively used in melanoma and could be an option in a patient who has progressed maybe on a nivolumab. A combination of, although there is very little data to show, but a combination of immunotherapy with the nivo and EP in somebody who has progressed with nivo could be one of the options. What about combining, as I already told you, combining a chemo with an anti-angiogenic agent? We have done that. We already have the ABCP data in lung cancer where an anti-angiogenic agent was combined with chemo and immuno in the IMpower 150 and showed excellent response. There is other data with nindatinib and docetaxel, and it has shown an excellent PFS and a disease control rate. And this strategy has been used in patients who have progressed early on immunotherapy in the second line setting. So a combination of chemo immuno. Some of the new drugs have been tried and they have been found to be useful. There have been good response rates to the KRAS inhibitors, the typical G12C inhibitor, which is seen in about 10 to 15% of the lung adeno-CAs, and it has been tried. Again, PARP inhibitors, there are several other drugs. Why I have selected these is because these are some of the drugs we have available in our country. So PARP inhibitors, we know PARP is very important in DNA damage regulation, and what it does, PARP inhibition causes cell death. The concept the tumor death causes release of the tumor antigens, and combining it with a immunotherapy beyond, or a chemotherapy maybe beyond immunotherapy progression, would lead to responses. So all of these are being tried in a number of clinical scenarios and in settings, and they are being recommended as second line options. You have your traditional chemotherapy. Obviously, it has not gone anywhere. So I think somebody was talking about Keynote 024. I think Dr. Mehboob was talking about 024, where people were allowed to, were given pembro for 2 years and they progressed and they could go back to pembro, or they were allowed to go back to chemo. So this was one trial where you could evaluate chemo followed by immuno or immuno followed by chemo. So PFS 1 and 2 were added together. And what the analysis showed that PFS 2 for first line pembro plus second line CT was significantly better than first line CT followed by a second line pembro. So this is an interesting interpretation. I think Dr. Basade skipped that slide, but there is an interesting interpretation. They say that giving immuno first, especially those who have a high PD-L1 expression followed by chemo, leads to a better progression-free survival overall, PFS 1 and 2 combined. So this is one concept, that you use chemo after immuno in the second line setting, obviously in somebody who has progressed. There are other drugs like CAR-T antibody drug conjugates, which have been the flavor of season, the HER3 antibodies and the antibody drug conjugates, which could be used in an early progressor. What about a late progressor, which is the most probably interesting part? The late progressors are the one who initially responded, to those who progressed after interruption of primary immunotherapy, or those who progressed on immunotherapy. Patients who had progressed after a therapeutic interval on immunotherapy, either mono or a combination, do find benefit on a re-challenge of immunotherapy. So re-challenge is always an option. So basically, what do you define re-challenge with immunotherapies could be defined as second course of treatment after an interval of almost 3 months. Why 3 months? They say, although the half-life of this drug is 12 to 20 days, the PD-1 inhibitors seem to occupy the T cells for almost 3 months. So you could use a re-challenge at least after a 3-month duration. And that is why they say if somebody has responded for at least a minimum of 3 months on an immunotherapy, re-challenge is an option. If somebody has progressed within 3 months on immunotherapy or has never responded, the early progressors, using immunotherapy again is not an option. So again, this is the phase 2-3 KEYNOTE-010, where pembrolizumab versus docetaxel in treated NSCLC patient. I'll just read the final interpretation. There was partial response and stable disease in about 43 and 36% of the patient respectively, with disease control level 79%. These are patients who had progressed on immunotherapy and were re-challenged. In addition, in the first line setting, as I already told you in the KEYNOTE-024, re-challenge did lead to a good disease control rate of almost 70% in patients, especially who had high PD-L1 expression. So re-challenge is an option. There is a data pool of about 10,000 patients of NSCLC patients who were treated with nivolumab of re-challenge. And out of those 10,000 patients, about 1,517 patients, 30% of them had a second course of PD-1 inhibitors, either after a treatment-free interval, that is resumption, or after a chemotherapy or a re-challenge group. And the median overall survival was almost 15% to 18% in the re-challenge and resumption group. So it did work. And again, the interpretation amongst this meta-analysis of 10,000 patients, out of which 1,500 were re-challenged, was that you use it especially in patients who had received nivolumab for a minimum of 3 months. So somebody who had at least responded for 3 months, that it makes sense in re-challenging it. Better if he has responded for a longer period of time, but at least a 3 months is a good number. So accordingly, you have re-challenging with immunotherapy. What about chemotherapy? So again, this is another meta-analysis. There's a collection of 11 trials where patients after chemotherapy. So this is what we generally do in our practice. So somebody has progressed after immunotherapy, we use chemotherapy. So this collection of 11 trials showed a response rate about 27%. There were obviously no advantage of using a platinum again, as we do in our second line settings, but it was the same as in second line conventional docetaxel or a second line agent. So chemotherapy did respond in patients who had failed immunotherapy, especially who had long responses. So again, these are all the trials. I have just picked up a few of them and I had highlighted them, but there's a lot of data available in this article where you can read how you can treat, or what are the data available for second line treatment beyond immunotherapy, either with a chemotherapy or with target. If I have to summarize the last slide, I'll end it here. You can see this table, somebody who has progressed on immunotherapy or immunochemotherapy. If you see the left side, oligoprogression, obviously you do the local treatment and you continue it. What about systemic progression? It could be a primary resistant early progression. There is many of us love to do a rebiopsy. I think there is data to doing rebiopsy and finding out what went wrong, probably sending an NGS and putting this patient into a number of second line immunotherapy agents, although we don't have them here. So we'll probably land up on a chemo. Acquired resistance, which is your intermediate and late progressors, I have already told you. So you could be using again an immunotherapy re-challenge, or maybe an immunotherapy chemotherapy re-challenge, or a chemotherapy after progression on especially in a late progressor or an intermediate progressor group. So with that, I would like to end this talk. And if you are interested in reading the article, I'll mail it to you. This is a very interesting article. I think it has come down just few months back. It has a lot of data on how do you treat patients beyond immunotherapy if you have used them, like Chirag sir and Kaushal likes to use a lot of them. So what do you do after progression?
Thank you, Abhishek. A wonderful talk and very interesting topic. Where a new topic, at least new topic.
So that is why I put it up. So
Yeah.
we learn something new.
Yeah, definitely. And it shows that our new oncology team of 2021 have not accepted easy defeat. So we go beyond exploring the new weapons and the new areas. And I think you have summarized nicely various treatment options of different sequencing, immunomodulator, TKIs, new innovative drugs, and everything. And I think still the best thing will be to generate data on these newer treatment options also, and include all these patients beyond first line into some clinical trial, so that we can learn something and have them meaningful and beneficial to all. So thank you again, and congratulate the Vijay for this hope of infusion for after this, those who have progressed after the first line. So now we move to the very important next panel discussion.